All right. If everyone's had a chance to review the minutes from the last meeting on May 27th, make a motion to accept those.
Second.
Under 2B, new business, traffic issues on Stevens Street and Reservoir Street. This came from Councilor Navin, who's present today, so I don't want to speak for him. So, Councilor, you have the floor. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chief. I'm not sure that I will do a better job than you would on speaking for me, but I will give it a shot. Appreciate the time. This is my first traffic commission meeting. I'm excited. As I've one of the new councilors, I've been trying to get around and learn some of the issues that are most pressing to people, and it's become very clear that this will not be my last traffic commission meeting. So,
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to kick it off, is it better that I take one of the, since they're in two different parts of the ward, better take one at a time, or do you want me to just go through my rant and then?
Can you come a little bit louder?
Yeah, you can just start with I guess we can start with Stevens Street.
Okay. So I know this is not a new issue, for the traffic commission, that speeding on Stevens Street, especially in the area up by Rocklawn, has been an issue that's been a concern to residents for a long time. But I've been talking to folks, and a couple of different things that I wanted to bring up to see if we can address. I know speeding all across Stevens is an issue, but particularly right at the bend there at Stevens and State. I've received a lot of calls about kind of people taking that corner. One of the residents has lost a fence a couple of times, who's right there on the corner. Some of that due to speed, and I think some of it due to the concern about truck traffic. I know that I believe the commission has greenlit 2 counts for the heavy trucks in the past. The most recent one, I think, was done in November. We've gotten a couple of calls with people asking, is it possible to at least get an honest count? I know the numbers were nowhere near what MassDOT would approve for a truck exclusion, but is it possible to do another count during construction season, when heavy trucks would be able to, or a lot more likely to be on the road? So that was one. Another one, which I think might be a little bit, hopefully a little bit easier to do, is to bring down the electronic speed limit signs and try and get a readout of the actual speed that people are taking. I think the concern being, it's 20 miles an hour on that corner. As someone who takes that road to work every day, I don't believe, not to incriminate myself, but I don't believe people are taking it at that speed. And I think people are traveling a bit faster than I am. So it would be great if we could just get some data to see how that's happening. And then again, if we could just get the truck count during the summer. I know obviously there are more trucks on all our roads across the city, certainly cutting through that way. So that is what we're hoping for to address the traffic on Stevens itself. The other one is a lot of the residents on Chandler and a couple of folks on State have kind of perennially concerns about people cutting through Chandler that may not live in and around the neighborhood, that are using it to get around the light at Lincoln and Bolton. One of the concerns being that they get onto the road, they may not know it as well, but they're speeding quite a bit. And so I know that Google and Waze, which is owned by Google, route a lot of cars through that area. Even just if you Google map it, one of the residents sent me a screenshot last night of just saying, I want to get from Price Chopper down to the 99 over by Apex. And, even on that route, when, it's really just Route 20 the whole way, they still turn you off and they turn you onto Chandler Street to go around. So just one of the things I was wondering if we could look at is taking that, the left turn on Chandler and, omitting a left turn, restricting a left turn onto Chandler from Stevens, perhaps during commuting hours. The point being that, I understand saying signs are probably harder to enforce, but if we were to make it so that a no left turn onto Stevens was allowed, we could work with Waze to let them know that they can take that out of the algorithm. I've worked with them before. They're really responsive to, hey, you can't, a city or town or an agency saying, hey, we're actually doing either a temporary detour or that turn's no longer allowed. They'll cut it right out. It certainly won't. The people who already know that cut through aren't going to stop knowing that cut through, admittedly, but for new people they're trying to route through there on heavy traffic days, it will take that off the table. So that was something that I was hoping that we could have a discussion about and see. And then I don't know if because if you were, trying to think of what the unintended consequences would be, if you take that turn off, does that then become a problem for state? And so is it appropriate to say, perhaps, 7 to 9 and 4 to 7, no left turn on Chandler and State. So that's my rant. Sorry for the long-winded ramble of it. I'm sure you guys have heard these issues 100 times before, but appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, I know we have heard them before. It's come up before, some of the issues. Officer Rose, Andy, I'm just wondering if you know when was the last time the speed signs down there? If you can pull those up.
Something else turned on? Reverberating really bad.
No, I don't.
Oh, like there's nothing on in the background? Okay. I just looked it up, 2018 for Chandler Street. Let me share here. Can you see that or?
Yes. Yes.
All right, so this is 2018 on Chandler. This is heading westbound. Average speed was 19. 85th percentile was 24 with a max speed of 45. And then this is eastbound, same time. His average speed was 15 with the 85th percentile of 19, max speed of 37. It is a narrow road. I think a lot of it is perception as people come off of Stevens that they appear to be going faster than they actually are.
Yeah, and where does the sign get placed when it was on Chandler? Do we have that?
Yeah. If my recollection serves me correctly, it was about halfway down. You don't want to put it too close to the coming off of Chandler. I'm sorry, State.
I'm just wondering for folks. Yeah.
So Andy, we could put it back out there. So council, we could probably do it. I'm not sure your schedule, Andy, about in the next 2 weeks, maybe get it back out there just to give you some more current data.
Yeah.
So have feedback for the residents. And Tim, as far as the truck count goes, I'll defer that to Tim and your office as far as the equipment, if it was up and running or.
Yeah, we just got new equipment. We got a new program. We haven't tried it yet. We have a new program. We've got Brigham Street, as you know, which is further on to do traffic counts here, but with the COVID-19, and we're only back to 50% for office. I don't know if traffic is 100%. If we do a truck count now, you're going to get a low number. So I was going to wait for traffic to get back up to close to normal before I started doing traffic counts.
Okay. I'm just thinking that, it's more construction season now, so yeah. I think
I can do traffic counts on Stevens now.
Does that make sense? I think if it's more of a construction season now, if we wait till.
Well, we can see what we get for numbers, and then if we want to wait and do it again because they're not up, we can wait and do it again.
All right, that would make sense. As far as the left turn from Stevens onto Chandler, Tim, is there any kind of stipulations on doing that? I know we had. I think when the council and I had talked, there was one at the bottom of Lincoln onto Lakeside at one point that limited left turn traffic between.
That is still there. You can take a left turn coming down Lincoln onto Lakeside between 4 and 6. So we do have timed no left turns. So we could do something like that. The only thing is it's going to be for everybody. So
right.
First house on Chandler's got to go all the way around. He's not going to be exempt. It's a public way. Everybody gets the right to use it. If you're going to limit that right, you limit it for everybody.
Right, and I know, council, we've been through this with Sandini Road in the past, where it's a one-way entering Sandini from Forest Street, and some of the residents wanted to open it, or some people wanted to open it just to residents, and that makes it extremely difficult to try to enforce that.
Yeah.
So, I thought it'd always been, if we're going to open it, then we open it for everybody. But in the same way, conversely with this, is if we restrict it, then it's restricted for everybody.
Yeah. So, the first thing I wanted to do, I appreciate that feedback. I think that's helpful. First thing I want to do was hear how possible it would be. I think the next step is just, I would want to confirm. I've heard for a good number of folks that they'd be okay with that in the area. I think I'd like the opportunity to
until it happens.
Good. Yeah, well, exactly. Right. And then I'll be back here, saying, I don't know who that idiot was who decided that was a good idea. But I think I'd just like to, flyer the neighborhood as well and let them know that, this is a possibility and think a productive way that we could help cut down the speed through, recognizing that one of the consequences will be that during those hours, you're either coming from the other way, and coming down, or you're going from Bolton.
Right. Okay. Well, why don't we, my suggestion would be to start with the data first, have the speed signs out there. Tim can do the DPW can do the truck counts, and we'll go from there.
Great. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And then the other issue was, I think this one hopefully is easier, down on Reservoir Street at the Causeway. Heard from a couple residents concerned about speeding over the Causeway. I think one of the reasons might be that the speed limit signs are placed in the middle of the Causeway going east and west. So if you're hitting that flat and you're taking off, you may not realize that it's only 30 miles an hour until you get to the midpoint, and then you may not, and especially coming down from Hudson heading west, you're coming down that hill, you're hitting the flat and you're kind of just off. So you do have a stop sign at the end of that, but with people kind of fishing, especially now as the weather's nicer, if people are flying down there, you've got kids running across and things like that. So I didn't know if that was something we could move those to the end on each side.
Reservoir Street, there's two coming from Hudson. There's one on the Hudson line, then there's one going halfway across. There was a request to have one placed coming off of Bolton. That one's missing.
Okay.
So there's one missing coming off of Bolton, going on Reservoir. That one's missing. I did request for that. But coming out of Hudson, there is two. One on
So
the
there's,
Hudson line.
so there's one before you go, as you're coming down the hill, right at the crest of that hill, where it turns
Yeah,
back.
at the top of the hill, yes, there is one there, and then there's another one halfway across.
Okay.
But
So
it is missing coming from Marlborough, heading towards Hudson. That one is missing.
okay.
Not anymore.
Oh, they did put it up? Okay, great.
Yeah, I got an email from Justin, who does our sign shop, from last Friday.
All right, perfect.
He
And I have,
30-mile sign northbound, speed limit sign post has been erected. So
and we've been down there a lot, not with the COVID, but before that, there's been thousands of dollars worth of tickets written on. So we are aware of that road.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. I will assume that this is always this easy. And I look forward to coming back on the next one.
All right. Thank you. All right. 2B.
Chief, he had a question on crosswalks too.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I do, but I'm all set on that.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I answered him back on that, so I'm not sure if I took care of it. Okay. All right, under 2B, new business, Lincoln and Union Street, the missing no turn on red signs. This was Officer LaRose had brought this forward. So Andy, go ahead. You can speak on that.
All right, for as far back as everyone can remember, there was a no turn on red at Lincoln at Bolton, and then another one Union at Bolton. They both have since disappeared. I went into the city code on the 360. Apparently the Lincoln at Bolton, unless Tim, you have a better, you obviously have better records. It says it was only supposed to be restricted 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then Union and Bolton, it did not show that there was supposed to be a restriction at all.
Yeah. John Burke, can you call that up?
Where'd you go?
Those, you see those?
Okay.
Yes.
All right, those are the regulations that are in place. Now, when we do the regulations, we don't put explanations as to why we did what we did. So I've got no reason why there's a time restriction on Lincoln,
Okay.
but that is the regulation. As
Okay.
far as Bolton and Union, there's only one at Union, and that is for eastbound. They don't do the westbound. I can only assume that that is because the amount of traffic coming from the middle school wanting to take a right, you're going to back up traffic if you don't allow that right on red to relieve some of the traffic.
The issue would be there's going to be the crossing guard there anyway, and he's pushing the button in between, so it's going to be backed up no matter what. Our biggest fear is looking left where the old gas station is. There's always cars blocking your view. Cars can come 35 miles an hour northbound.
John, can you hit the one that says photo on the bottom? That's your view. And that's partly because that old gas station, he's got a bunch of cars parked there. So
Correct.
your
Yep.
sight distance there is terrible. So
Correct.
you really either have to, if you're gonna continue to allow the right on red, you're gonna have to get a hold of that guy and get those cars out of there.
But can you restrict him from parking vehicles on his?
I'm only assuming that that right on red is allowed and was not regulated because they were trying to do something with the right on red. This may have been before the traffic, before the crossing guards were there and were directing the traffic. I can only speculate why that's allowed, but there is no regulation there for right on red. So if we want to restrict it, we've got to make a regulation.
Correct.
And given that sight distance that you have there, he's got 4 cars that day, there were 4 cars parked there, which you've only got enough sight distance for a couple of cars. You really shouldn't be taking the right on red with those cars parked there because you don't have good sight distance.
Correct. And then the Lincoln Street one, everyone here feels that that should be restricted at all hours, especially for our response, because when we come down that intersection, we go to it all the time, taking a left to go to Lincoln to head to the east. Cars taking a right off of Lincoln onto Bolton. A lot of the times we're on the oncoming side of the road, lights and sirens, but someone taking a right, that building on the corner is totally blocking your view. And so there has been accidents at that intersection. I believe one was just recently with a cruiser. So we'd ask that be restricted at all hours because the sight distance going both directions, looking north and south, are horrendous at that intersection.
Okay, I mean, I would agree with that. So, Tim, it's a matter of adjusting the regulation for that to remove the hour restriction and
Yep.
then drafting one for Union Street westbound and Bolton. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we can refer that to engineering for the next meeting and we can address that in the next one.
Yep.
Okay. 2C, new business request for signage and a crosswalk at 110 Concord Road. This kind of piggybacks on the something under old business. This had come from the Child Care Center down at the bottom of Concord Road. She had asked for a crosswalk across Concord Road to Mosier Lane from their business from 110. I'm just refreshing here on her email. During the February Traffic Commission meeting, it was decided to take place a speed monitor at 110 Concord Road to observe speeding. I'm curious about the results and any next steps that have been considered. While I understand that I cannot have a crosswalk if there is no sidewalk for Concord Road, would it still be possible to put a crosswalk on Mosier Lane? Officer Rose, what kind of results did we have from Concord Road?
Andy, you're muted.
Andy, you're muted.
Did the screen pop up or no?
No.
I'll try it again.
There you go.
All right, so it's a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. Average speed was 26. 85th percentile of the cars are doing 30 or less, with a maximum speed of 49. So they're within 85% of the cars are within 5 miles an hour of the limit.
Okay, I know I had reached out to code enforcement because I think part of the issue there is that the sight distance for someone crossing Concord Road. So I'd reached out to code enforcement and Pam was going to contact the residents. She's had communications with them before about the trees on the corner up from Hemingway Street Extension, that residence before the daycare. So I believe she said she thought they were in violation because of the distance to the road and the height of the trees. So she was going to contact them.
John, can you pop up the aerial graphic that I got highlighted there?
Hang on a second, Tim. I got. You're looking for? You're going to share a file, Tim?
Huh? You see the second one from the bottom? I've got the aerial graphic. Yeah, that one. Those are the two, you see that? Everybody seeing that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so the red arrow and the green arrow showed that those are the views, those hedges are blocking. Pam got in touch with the homeowner. She is agreeable that yes, there's a problem and they should come down. The issue we have is we're not sure whether they're hers or ours. Real quick, going back in history, 1890 something, the city of Marlborough made a whole bunch of road public ways by highlighting them red on a map, banging the gavel, boom, public ways. No layout, no description. It would be very, very tedious and time consuming if we were to go out there and lay out that corner and figure out which ones are hers and which ones are ours. She's agreeable to take them down. What I need to do, and have not had a chance to, because I only talked to Pam this morning, is see if John Galone would be willing to have the city take them down, assuming that they're ours. They're right on the line or just over the line. The woman's agreeable that they should come down if there are problems, so I gotta talk to John and see if we can get our force to go out there and take those down. That will at least create better sight distance for people that are driving down that road and for the kids that are crossing. Now, as far as the crosswalk on Mosher Lane, if you look at the screen on the bottom where the yellow arrow is, that's the crosswalk on Mosher. I don't know what she's talking about. She had requested a crosswalk from Mosher to their property, but with no sidewalk on her side of Concord Road, we can't put a crosswalk in.
Right.
So we explained to her. But we can clean up the corner of the arborvitaes that are really restricting the view of oncoming traffic. But I gotta talk to John to make sure he's willing to have our forces do that.
Okay. Well, I think we can probably table this to the next one. And Officer LaRose, if you can reach out to her and just provide us some feedback on what our signs gave us back for data. And we can also talk to her about the current crosswalk that's there. And then when Tim finds out about taking down the trees, we can also reach out to her and let her know. I mean, in my opinion, honestly, I think the trees would, if the trees are removed, that would make a big difference for that corner.
Chief, Sergeant Attaway sent her the data, but he said he'll reach out to her again.
Okay. Okay. And we can follow up once we get that. Thank you. All right. Under 2D, new business, parking and sidewalk issues on Crescent Street. Okay, let me see. This was from a resident, David Kirkpatrick at 19 Crescent, who we had spoken to, I had spoken to a week or two ago about his issues on Crescent Street. The sidewalks on Crescent Street, reading from his email, the sidewalks on Crescent Street has been done 3 times since he has lived there. It gets destroyed and quickly as a concrete is a thin lay. It is not reinforced. It is low and does not have stone street edging as most have, which I assume is curbing. Trucks and vans park on the sidewalk, cracking it for the length of Crescent Street. It's now destroyed and requires replacement. Part of the issue is Crescent Street is not wide, so trucks and cars park on the sidewalk. The town trash truck and other big trucks U-turn at the top of the street and go down on the sidewalk, cracking the tiles. When there's a funeral, all the cars park on the sidewalk. I'm just trying to skim a little bit here. When the town removed, or the city removed tiles to swap over lead water pipes into homes and replace the tiles with tar, the tiles, in front of my house at 19 Crescent is now distorted and cracking after being replaced 2 weeks ago. He has called the highway department about the issue and asked if there something could be done. Aside from replacement, I asked if there was something like a yellow stripe which could be placed on the outer edge of the sidewalk in the white outer border with no parking on it, etc. This is something I have to go to the traffic commission. Only one side of Crescent Street has a sidewalk. Restricting parking on one side would eliminate the issue. Most residents of Crescent Street do not park on the sidewalk. Sidewalk parkers are usually non-residents, cars, and delivery vans who park for a short time. Unless the town puts in a regular heighted sidewalk with the usual curbing, I would assume stone edge, the sidewalk will be replaced again. It's degraded over in the past. Tim, can you speak to anything about what they've done in the sidewalk up there?
Yeah, they did do 3 lead service replacements. It's typical that we don't replace it with concrete right away. We have to make sure that there's no settling. That's what he had experienced, was there was settling in front of his property. So they put some more mix down. Eventually, when they have time as part of this project, they will go out and they'll put the concrete back. As far as the sidewalk itself, yeah, it's a very thin layer of cement. It's normally meant for pedestrian traffic, not for truck traffic. Usually when we reconstruct a road, we put in curbing. There is no curbing there. That's what's giving people the ability to drive up on it. I would hate to start thinking about restricting parking there, because most of the people that are parking there are people that are going to the cemetery. It's already probably one of the worst days of their life, and now you're gonna give them a parking ticket because they parked there. Once we reconstruct the sidewalk, if we ever do the road over and put the curbing in, that'll most likely stop people from parking on there. You've got 25 feet of pavement. So you could actually park and still get a vehicle by. One thing I did notice when I was researching, if you go to the end of Crescent and there's a paved alleyway, call it, it's only 12.5 feet wide, it takes you up to Mount Pleasant. Back when Bill Morrow was the mayor, the city council gave him the authority to buy that piece of property from the church for $1. The church was willing to do so. Never happened. So technically, we don't own that yet. It's probably something that we can send up to legal about finishing up that council order. If that were to happen, at least people going up would have a way to get out if you had cars parked there, because you really can't turn around. For all intents and purposes, Crescent Street is a dead-end street. But unfortunately, our road reconstruction project doesn't have Crescent on the list. It's something that we can take care of when we get around to reconstructing that road, to put the curbing in, put in a viable sidewalk with maybe some reinforcing so that we don't have an issue. People are gonna park where they wanna park. Hopefully, if we put curbing in, we can stop them from parking on it. But it is the traffic parking on that sidewalk that has caused all that damage.
So Tim, without the city owning that strip or that alley, as you mentioned at the top, it wouldn't do, we couldn't put any signage up directing traffic as an outlet to Mount Pleasant, instead of trying to turn around or park on the side.
Probably we could. Right now, we have, there's a sign there that says Crescent Street Extension. It's an old sign. It's one of the old green ones. We never even replaced them when we switched over to the blues. I don't think there would be anything stopping us, because there is a council order where the church agreed to it. They were willing to do it. The man never just missed that final step of having the deed prepared. And I actually did look. The Archdiocese deeded over all the cemetery property to a cemetery association. And in that deed, it does make mention accepting for a piece of land from Crescent to Mount Pleasant that may have been deeded over. So they're aware that the city wanted to deed it over. We just haven't gotten around to it. So I don't know. I don't think there'd be a problem if we used that to direct people. We would probably want to at least sign it for now as one way. I don't think we'd have to put a regulation in place because we don't own it yet. But if we go through the process of getting title to that strip of land, then we could make that one way. You might even want to think about making Crescent Street one way.
Tim, Chief, if I can, just a real quick question for Tim. Is that strip of land that you're talking about between Crescent and Mount Pleasant Street, is it wide enough to address the issue that this gentleman's talking about with, like, the when trash pickup is done, the truck isn't going to be able to fit its way down there and then maneuver a turn onto Mount Pleasant, is it?
It's 12.5 feet wide. The city does have streets that are narrower than that, and we just make arrangements with Republic Services to send a truck, like off of Neal Street. You've got Irving Cottage and Spruce. Those are very, very narrow streets. A regular trash truck's not going to fit down there. They send pickup trucks to get those.
Okay,
So
well,
we can address the trash issue by having a pickup truck from Republic go out there and get that trash instead of sending a large truck up there.
okay.
And they can do the same thing with snow plowing. Just make sure I'm pretty sure we're sending up a 1-ton truck and not a full dump truck to be able to make that turn and get out.
Okay. All right. Well, I can reach back out to the resident, let them know about the reconstruction of the street, that it's on the table. It's just we don't know the schedule for it yet. And that should address and correct that problem there. In the interim, we can put a sign maybe at the top directing traffic out from Crescent onto out that alleyway there to try to alleviate some of the turnaround and truck traffic. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Sounds good. And okay, now under old business, 3A, old business, poor street lighting conditions, West Main and Winthrop. This pertained, Andy, to that crosswalk, is that right?
Yes, we didn't determine the lighting had anything to do with the collision itself. That was the crosswalk painting that needs to be done and the advanced warning signs.
The street division has it on their list to do. The problem is they don't want to put the crosswalk in until it's ADA compliant, and by the funeral home, it's raised curbing, so it's not ADA compliant, so they need to do some reconstruction at the corners in order to drop the sidewalk down so that it's ADA compliant. I can get a hold of Jim Discoli and see if he's got that on his schedule when he plans to do that.
Okay. Do we want to keep that on here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I had forgotten all about it. I saw street lighting and assumed it wasn't anything. Otherwise, I would have looked at it in more detail and gotten some information. So if you could change street lighting to crosswalk installation.
And then we can kind of couple that with 3B for the request for the crosswalk warning signage, West Main and Winthrop.
Yes, once the crosswalk's in, we'll put up the additional signage.
Okay. Okay. So we'll keep those on here.
Yeah.
Okay. 3C, the parking issues at Lakeside Ave. I'm not sure if there's anybody from the public who wants to speak on this. If you do, just unmute yourself and identify yourself for the record so Karen can track that. Okay. I think so that pertains to the Fix restaurant that has we had complaints before from some of the residents on the condo association or the condos at 45 Lakeside Ave. When the Fix was closed during the COVID break, I'll call it, we didn't have any complaints or any issues at all. When it started opening again and limited capacity for takeouts and now outdoor seating, we've had a couple more emails about it. And one came from Bill Frankie that went through Councilor Tenera. Hold on one second, I'll just refer to his email. These two pictures are from Saturday or Sunday at 2 p.m. on June 14th. The Fix just opened for outside seating. There's already 7 cars parked on the street, and 2 of them are clearly parked in the no parking area. If it's like this for outdoor seating on a Sunday afternoon, imagine when it reopens the restaurant inside. These cars were not from Valley either. Customers were pulling in after, and if they could not get into the parking lot, they were parking on Lakeside Ave, walking over and to the business. Please make Lakeside a no parking road. This is awful since the Fix reopened. And that might be the only email that we have on that. I did talk to the owner of the Fix, or we actually messaged this week. He's been working since the business was shut down to try to obtain off-site parking. We had talked about this in the past. He's reached out to different businesses or companies in the area trying to either rent their space or resurface their space or move some of his employees to a different location. And as of Monday, I think Monday when I talked to him, or Friday, he hasn't had any success. He hasn't been able to do that. So he was going to reach out to his employees and ask them not to park over there. And I mean, I've had officers checking it the last couple of days, last week. I spoke to one of the sergeants last night on the evening shift, and he said there wasn't a single car parked over there. And the business is open, so they've been checking it. So I agree with the restriction we had as far as making that the no parking on that corner. I think that alleviates some of the turning traffic trying to get there. But I don't know that limiting it for the whole street is proper at this time. In fact, I heard from 2 other residents this morning who called me and expressed that they don't see a need to restrict parking all the way down the shoulder.
Okay, excuse me, David, I lost you completely, so I didn't hear the beginning.
Okay.
This is Alice from, Waterwind Knolls. There are people at our condo who want parking because they have 17 cars and they want to be able to park on the street, to overcome our 2 cars.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know who called you, but I'm really concerned, and I think we all expressed this in February, about the huge amount of traffic, non-vehicular. And you may have just addressed this. I was trying to unmute and then my whole thing went away.
Oh,
I apologize.
It's okay. It's all right.
So I am not just me. I might be the only one here, but I talked to a bunch of people. We sent out a notice, maybe a little late, that there's a bunch of people extremely not wanting parking. Okay, because we use that back and we walk around on it. So a lot of people taking their exercise, walking up and down. At night, if you try to come when they did park, and of course we're now in a period where there's no cars because they have plenty of space to park the limited amount, but this is all going to change and go back to what it was before, which is cars the whole street. You can't safely, when you come in, first of all, there's bad lighting. That's not first of all. The lighting it's dark enough so that there's a lot of confusion. There's cars to look at, there's people to look at, bikes, and to watch out for traffic coming in and out of Waterwind Knolls. And so it did solve I think the no parking on the west end by winter. But this, I think we talked about it before, this was already a problem before the whole berm and the whole street got reconstructed, because it was a through street with one entrance. And the restaurant that was where Hood is now, the real estate, people took advantage of that. It was a disaster. So that's when a no parking sign originally went in for the whole street. And essentially, because the previous, I'm repeating myself, I just like to point out strongly, we're not okay with having parking there. There's, say 80 people living, maybe 100. I don't know how many live in Waterwind Knolls. There's a couple of houses down. And a lot of the people coming here they haven't come here before. They're not familiar with that. There's pedestrians, bicycles, scooters, baby carriages. That's in the daytime, and they're going to be open in the daytime. They're going to be open for lunch eventually, and they are now on weekends. And that's when there's high usage. And the thing is, okay, you can put cameras and to verify this. I don't know what we can do to show you what's going on. There's dog walking, it's the only way to get from one place to the other. It's the sidewalk as well as the street. I don't know what the justification for parking there is. I can't hear it because people want it. They want it so they can park their extra cars there. I don't know. Okay.
Part of what I think too is, we could do that on a lot of streets in the city. People want to walk and they want to exercise and they want to ride their bikes, and we can't restrict no parking sometimes on every street so people can exercise.
There's no sidewalk. There's no way to get from X to Y here. They were supposed to be in my brain when they put the berm up. There was going to be a sidewalk on the street side, which I thought was dangerous, but they were going to put a sidewalk in. I went to look at the DPW plans before when they were building the berm, because it was a question then, is how are people going to get from the end of, it looks like a short distance, but there's people going to work. there's, you know, you don't live here. I mean, I'm not saying you're doing wrong things. I'm just saying the faction that wants parking, why should that overcome that? You know, if there were a sidewalk, we'd have a much weaker argument. But it's so dangerous. I walk with a, you know, a flashlight at night. Not everyone thinks of that because they start walking when it's day. It's not just residents that walk here. There's all sorts of joggers come through. And you're right, they can use sidewalks, but there is no sidewalk. So this is the sidewalk for this area.
Tim, has there ever been, do you know of the history of this at all? If there was any discussion?
I researched history. Back in 1983, they restricted parking on the north side of Lakeside. In 1996, they passed an ordinance, the Traffic Commission passed an ordinance that repealed that traffic. Then on the same day, they instituted traffic on the south side of Lakeside Ave, beginning at the easterly edge of the paved surface and then running in a westerly direction for a distance of 1,090 feet. And on the north side, beginning at the westerly edge of the driveway to the Waterwind Knolls condominiums and then running in a westerly direction for a distance of 485 feet. John, if you could call up the one that says, that one there, do you see that, John? 91096 regulation graphic PDF. So it's basically,
Wait a second, Tim.
yeah.
Is that the right one, Tim?
Yep. So on the south side of the road, the lake side of the road, it's that entire length up to where we just installed those 3 arrows at the end. Those are the 3 that we just installed. The rest of that length should have no parking signs on them. That's the current regulation. I think what happened is that when they put the that berm in,
Right.
out of Ice House Landing, they were taken down and never replaced. Now, on the north side, or the Waterwind Knoll side, it's from their driveway on the north side, basically to the opposite where we have those 3 signs. That's what's in place now, just not signed correctly.
Okay, so I know on the Waterwind Knolls side, there is signage there saying
Yep.
no parking.
Yep.
So if I'm correct then in what you're telling me, on the opposite side, the lake side, we have 3 signs in that we just installed.
Yep.
The corner of Winter Down, but the rest of that shoulder where the berm is should be signed?
Should be signed, yes, all the way down to the end of the road, by that small detention basin, that entire length.
Okay,
And the one thing you'd have to, if you look at the red dot in front of the first building at Waterwind Knolls, there's a sign there, that should come out. That is not regular, that should not be there. There's a sign up there and it shouldn't be there because it starts at the westerly edge of the driveway. So that dot, that sign should come down.
ma'am, can you see that?
No, sorry, I can't. I'm on too small a thing. Are
Oh.
you saying that the north side would then get, I think that whole section from the driveway toward Winter Street is also no parking, right?
And that's currently signed as no.
Right. And but then further up, there's like a gravelly parking. I don't know what they're doing, some construction now. I don't know what they're doing. That's, I think, owned by you guys. There's kind of a pullout that people park on sometimes and they drop off school kids. And then there's more trees and stuff. And that should also be no parking because lots of truck traffic and stuff comes in the new entrance and would, you know, if there's parking there, that's very confusing too. It really needs to be no parking all the way. But I mean, I'm grateful for that you dug up the records because it makes me feel like I wasn't insane about.
We never thought that, ma'am. Don't
Oh,
worry.
thank you. Thank you so much. I worry sometimes.
So I think I think from what Tim had said, if you come out of the driveway for Waterwell Knolls and you look right,
Yes,
that's all no parking. If you
correct.
look left, there's a sign there that says no parking, but he's saying that shouldn't be there. That's not regulated, that shoulder. But across the street, the berm side is regulated the entire length. There's no parking.
Yeah, yeah, and I just think they took down the signs when they built the berm and didn't put them back up again.
Okay. So, I mean, if we're in agreement, then I'm not gonna seek to change anything with that. But if we're in
Great.
agreement, then we can re-sign that side, Tim, and that could
Yep.
alleviate
Great.
our problem.
Yeah,
And
that'd be
Chief,
great. And if that other piece, the little piece we're talking about that's east of the driveway, if that causes problems, we'd just bring that up in another meeting? Is that?
Yes.
There's a lot of trees, I may have it wrong, but I think there's trees that go right up to the edge. You know, there's a lot of trees past that it's not
Yeah.
easy to park at all because there's bushes and stuff.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. Thank you.
Oh, that's
And-
great. Can we, how do we disseminate this? And when can we, that's wonderful.
It's a matter of us, the DPW getting the signage up there, and that's on Tim's
Super.
schedule.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you so much. Great.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yep.
Thank you, Tim.
yeah, the Chief,
Yeah.
as part of the, when he said he's looking for extra parking, has he gone to the D'Angelo site? He's got a huge parking area in the back of that never gets used, so I don't know whether he's reached out to them, but that might be
Good
something you
point.
might wanna talk to him about.
And it was really, he was trying to arrange it for his employees, to get his employees to, to shuttle them off site. In all honesty, I think he's doing the best he can.
Yeah, I know when
It's just limited.
when he first opened, he had valet parking, that you would drop your car off and they'd run and park it somewhere, and I'm just wondering, he was parking it on that portion of Lakeside Ave, which was causing a lot of problems. But he was looking for, even when it was the Aurora restaurant, they were always looking for extra parking spot. They were parking on Bond Street, and that could be a problem. He found somewhere else. I just know that you've got a lot of empty space in that D'Angelo building. I don't know whether he's reached out to them or not.
Okay, all right. And I can touch base with him and let him know about that, and I can also let him know that this was found and that it's gonna be signed. But Tim, if you could email us that photo so we could add it to
Yeah.
the
I have a whole package I'll get to Karen.
Okay,
Yeah,
so we can
that's
add,
good.
okay, great, thank
Great.
you.
Wonderful. Great.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, under 3D, the crosswalk, that kind of, again, that piggybacks the Meadowbrook Childhood Garden Center. So that was addressed previously. 3E, Brigham Street concerns, I believe, Tim, that was the truck count, is that right?
Yeah,
Brigham Street, yeah, I haven't done the truck counts. I'm waiting for traffic to get normal again.
Okay, all right, we'll table that. And then 3F was the public safety concerns on Wilson Street. I believe that's Wilson and Hemingway, which was, that regulation's been drafted to change the stop sign, which was agreed on the last meeting, to change it from one side of the intersection to the other side. So I've drafted that, and if everyone is in agreement and approves it, we can make that change.
you can put it up early.
Do we have it? I think I can pull that up,
Yeah.
actually. This should be interesting. If somebody wants to walk me through sharing it here, how do I do that?
Oh, Chief, let me do it.
It's John's.
John, grab the one.
Chief, if I'm not mistaken, this is just to move the stop sign from the Hemingway Street extension side to the Hemingway Street side, correct?
Not that one.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
John.
Hemingway Street extension. It's just that, yeah, from
Yeah,
one
well, I don't know I don't know what it's called. It's the, when you
right.
come down Wilson, to
Yes.
the left, you're gonna move that stop sign to the opposite side.
But I think we had to approve it before they could make that movement, right, Tim?
Right, but
Right.
no, but that's
You
the
approved,
one.
you
that's
approved
one-
the idea, now you're voting on the regulation now that it's in word form.
Okay, so all those in favor then? I don't know if we have it.
Nope.
Tim, just choose the file you want to share.
Well, I had it down here. that one.
And it's exactly from Tim's wording, like,
Mhm.
even if they can't, it's exactly from Tim's wording, like, even if we can't.
There we go. So I've drafted that, the regulation for that to make that adjustment. So it's moving it from, removing it, the sign on an easterly travel direction on Wilson Street or Hemingway Street to the west side. So if everyone approves, then we can make that adjustment. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Chief, you want to just send it to me and I'll make sure it gets advertised and we'll be good to go?
Yes, sure. And if we can suspend the rules for a minute, we have another regulation. It was brought up by Commissioner Galoni at the end of the meeting. You can bear with me 1 second to find it.
What's that?
That's this one.
Oh, I'm sorry, that
What's
one.
this one?
And there was,
So Tim, if you can speak to that, I think it was the commissioner's concern about the right turn on red from Main turning south on South Bolton Street.
John, could you pop up the one I've got highlighted there? Main Street at South Bolton. What happens is if you're traveling down Main Street and you want to take a right turn on South Bolton Street, you can, because it's not regulated as no turn on red. If you look at the graphic I have there, if you're at the stop line, that red line shows the distance that you can see, which is not far. You can't see a whole lot of traffic. You've got to come out into the middle of the intersection where that blue line is to be able to see 200 feet up the street. 200 feet is a good sight distance. So in order for you to be able to do a right on red, you've got to cross the stop line, the crosswalk, and you're halfway in the intersection before you can see if there's oncoming traffic. And by that point, you're in their lane of traffic and it's a problem. So the commissioner had asked me to look at it and see whether we thought we should institute a no right on red for eastbound traffic on Main Street at South Bolton. And that's the regulation I sent you.
Why don't I have this on here? No, this part here.
I asked that too, it was because of this.
Uh,
Tim had said that we wanted to do a second one, delete that.
Okay.
John,
All right.
John Burke, you see that that one?
Eames. Oh, okay. And so
Yeah, the other point was that while I was going through there, I noticed that we have a no right turn on red restriction at Ames and Boston Post Road West. The problem is that that's kind of a state layout. The state owns that piece of road, so it's their regulation, not ours. So it really shouldn't be there. Just a little housekeeping.
I think that's part of what my confusion was. I was reading my own regulation and not understanding what I had written. So, so if we're in agreement there, so we did draft a regulation for the right turn on red from Main Street heading eastbound to turn right onto South Bolton Street to add a right turn on red regulation, a no right turn on red regulation there. And the second half would be to repeal the one at Ames turning onto Boston Post Road West, as that state's jurisdiction. So if we're in agreement and everyone approves, then we can turn that to Steve and we can advertise it. All those in favor, I guess?
Aye.
All right. Thank you. And
Chief, can I just ask Tim one quick question?
sure.
I know it was brought up before, westbound on Main Street, that light, you get 2, maybe 3 cars through. Was there ever discussion of changing the timing?
It's wrong before.
Because that always gets backed up.
Yeah. I've gone through that when it has been backed up, and I've gone through it when it's not. So I don't know whether there could be a problem with the loop detector. What I'll do is, we have a traffic signal maintenance agreement with a company. I'll have Jimmy Discoli, the general foreman for the streets division, reach out to them and have them take a look to make sure it's running properly. And if they tell us it's running properly, then we can look at the timing, if there's a timing problem. But I think there might be a problem with a loop detector, that it doesn't know it's assuming there's no vehicles. That's why it's tripping the green for Bolton and South Bolton.
Okay, yeah, because sometimes,
I'll check that out.
yeah, sounds good.
Okay, well, I think that's all that we have on the agenda for today. Just lastly, I just want to add a note. I know John is not here today, but I just wanted to publicly say thank you to John for his contributions to the Traffic Commission. You know, over the years, he was on this a lot longer than I was, or I have been, and I think he's been an integral part of helping push things through and make progress here in the city. And I think just some recognition is well deserved for him. So with that, if anybody else has any questions or any business, then we can conclude the meeting at 11:01.
Congratulations, John.
Yes,
Very
thanks,
good.
John. Good luck.
I'll pass those words on to him.
All right, thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks,
All right.
Chief.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thanks, chief.